There isn't much to discuss with this video. It should be relatively self-explanatory, but it's basically drawing out a character, so a visualization of a character idea that is going to be meshed in 3D. So this is just the process of drawing out that character using vector graphics, not paintbrushes as in pixel art. So this is all vector based, so it can be scaled up or down if needed. So the process is basically that, is drawing out and shaping a character. So of course all we do is first we start with an outline, the shape of the general shape, doesn't have to be precise, and then we just edit the nodes because again we're in vector based drawing, and that's basically all we do for the entire process. Draw out a outline of the shape that we want and just shape it. Oh, and this is being done in Affinity Designer, but any vector-based app or any app that can work with vectors will suffice. Sometimes you can have too many nodes, so just get rid of them. They don't necessarily aid the process. Again, too many nodes, just get rid of them. While we're on the subject of nodes, as a general rule of thumb, something to keep in mind, as with 3D meshing, you only really want to be using what you need to describe the outline or the silhouette of the object. It's the same with 2D as it is with 3D, so all of these extra nodes that are part of the outline, if they don't aid the process of creating that outline, that silhouette, just delete them. Don't leave them in place, because all that does is it makes it complicated or more complicated and messy than it needs to be. So we've got our outline, just rotate it a little bit. Now for the fill, depending on the application being used and or exactly what it is that you're trying to do, how you create the fill will differ. In this case, all we've done is drawn out a basic shape, shaped that to size, and then converted it to a curve so that we can use the handles, the Bezier handles, to fit that to the shape of the outline. Again, there are different ways of doing this, but this is a bit more flexible because it keeps each of the components completely separate. Now we've got the shape of the fill sorted out, we can change its colour. And this is one of the advantages of keeping everything separate, because obviously we can we can ordinarily colour the fill and outline separately anyway. But because of the style of the pen, the stroke used to create the outline, that can be ordinarily tricky. So keeping things separate helps with that. Looking at the stroke, it fades out over quite a long distance, so we're going to change its properties a little bit so that it's a shorter fade. Which will be the template itself, so we have to adjust that well, in Affinity Designer that is. So we're just adjusting the brush stroke itself. And how that starts and stops. So the fade in and fade out. So that's our basic base bean shape. So scale that uniformly just to rescale it, make it slightly larger. So everything else now is detailing. And again, just basic shapes, converting them to beziers or vectors, and then modifying and changing the nodes, and deleting the ones that we don't need. So this bit is the bean's belly button, or the hilum, or hilum. It's the bit that's attached to the bean pod. So again, basic shape, convert to vector, change the handles, and then we don't need an outline for this, so we can just fill with an appropriate colour once we've got the shape done. So select, make sure we're filling, and then drag that below the bean outline, the silhouette outline, so that sits on top. We could draw an outline for that, but might do that at a later point. So once we've done that, save the file, because we've progressed to a point where we generally need to. So save the file and then carry on. So next, the eyes. Do the same thing again. Pencil out or pen out an outline, apply the brush, and then shape it. So we can do both of them. Again, delete the nodes that we don't need, and the mouth, before we do that. So eyes and mouth. Delete the nodes that we don't need. And we want the outline to be round but not symmetrical, so it needs to be slightly off kilter. And we can do that with a minimal amount of nodes. So we don't need to keep nodes that we don't need to use. It's a common theme there. There's one, and then we'll do the same to the other. So just turn these upside down for a second just to see what they look like with the start and end point at the bottom instead of at the top. It gives a different look to the character. So that's something to bear in mind, is the orientation, or where the start and end points begin and end, affects the look of the character. So now we need to do the same thing to fill the eyes, again using separate shapes that we deform to fit the outlines that we've created, and then we can fill them with an appropriate colour. We need to change the layer order, put the fills below the outlines, and then we can change the fill colour. And then what we can do is copy or replicate the colour of the outline to all the other outline elements, so the eyes and the mouth. The simple way to do that is just using the hex values. Change the bean's outline just to make it a little thicker than the other lines and outlines, so they are differentiated. And we're going to change the eyes to black rather than using white, because the character doesn't have any pupils, irises, the black hole in the middle. So we just want a black oval shape, round shape, and then just a white highlight to indicate the curvature of the eyeball. But either or would work. Again, it's another stylistic thing. White would work with a pupil iris, but then the highlight is tricky to do unless you put that on the iris and pupil. So changing to black means that we can have the highlight on the whites of the eye, or what would be the whites of the eye. Using a pen stroke didn't work for that, so I delete those. And we'll just use a basic shape that is then converted to curves, and even for this, even for the highlights of the eyeballs, we can edit the nodes and change the shape of the highlight. A bit fiddly, but those will do for our eye highlights. For the mouth, bean is kind of sad, so we'll just again delete nodes that we don't need and then make it a happy bean. So there is our happy bean. So what we can do next is a Papercraft Outline. So we're just going to draw a shape around our character. Edit the nodes. So we get a cut paper look. So again, we're deleting the nodes that we don't need. So basically what that means is we're creating flatter surfaces or flatter edges rather than it being curved, completely curved. So we give that appearance of a shape cut out of paper. And once we've got that, we can colour it off-white for the moment because we've got a white background. So we can correct that by dropping in a background. So again, primitive shapes, just change the colour of that. And there is our Papercraft style character. Make sure the background occupies the entire sheet so we can change the X and Y coordinates in Affinity Designer and transform, and make sure it's centered on the page. So looking at what we've got so far, not quite so happy with the outlines around the eyes, so I'm just going to invert those to see what they look like. Do that for both of them. Just see what the gap looks like at the bottom and how that changes the character of the eyes. Might just hide those. Let's just change the background to make it a little easier to see. And then just save. Add a bit of optional title text. So this is the name essentially of the character. Choose our font, scale up. Let's go with this one. Scale up. Change the colour. That's mean, M-E-E-N, beans. This could be an entire family of characters. Let's just select all of this and group it. So group, select all, and just group it, and that just makes it easier to manage the different components. So there we have mean beans. Again, save our progress. Always a good habit to get into. Still not happy with those outlines around the eyes, so let's just try hiding them. See if that changes the feel of the character. So we'll leave them for now. And let's draw in a mouth. So again, we're just using our basic shapes. And use the same color for the outlines. And attribute that to the mouth shape, convert it to curves, and then again, yet again, we are shaping the mouth using the node points that we've got. So don't necessarily want this to be a symmetrical or formal mouth shape because of the type of character the bean is. So we just want to try and do something more interesting. And as with 3D, a lot of this is just playing around with shapes. So we're just playing with shapes to see what feels right, what looks right. So there aren't necessarily any mistakes to be made, because that's not what we're doing. We're creating an overall feel, an overall look. So that's our mouth shape. I'm going to add a little tongue, a little section for the tongue. Just change the colour so that we can see it. And then again, shape that to the mouth. But we need to see the outline, so let's just get rid of the fill for the moment. Just use the outline. Shape that, and then once we've got that, we can remove the outline and refill the shape with a colour, or refill the fill. So fill is selected, colour, then delete the outline. A bit more tweaking. And there is our happy mouth. Save the file, so save in progress. Let's just do a bit more tweaking. The exclamation marks making it extra special. So we've grouped everything. So as we have an open mouth, we've got our closed mouth as well. So we just need to make sure that that occupies more or less the same volume distance-wise, so width, as the open mouth. So when we close it, let's just ungroup this, make this easier. So when we close the mouth, just double check the colour that we've used for the mouth. It is the same as the profile, the outlines. Let's just reorganize this a little bit. So just dragging and dropping the layers to organise them approximately. Still not happy with the outlines around the eyes, so let's just hide those for good. Let's try putting the highlights on the other side of the eye. Again, these little tweaks change the character. So undo. They change the character, the look. And it's not necessarily that it's because the first shape we create is the correct shape. It's that the shape that we've got fits what we're trying to do, or the arrangement. Let's just organize those again. So group those. Group those. Group the mouth. Then we can hide that. And our character talks. Hello. What we need now is some blink action. So we just draw a line using our pen tool. So this is the same as the outlines. We can just grab and move this into place. Shape it so that it's the same width as what would be the closed eye. So again, manipulating our nodes. And once we've got that, going to layer mode, just copy that, copy, paste, move that over to the other eye, and then we should have, when we hide our layers, group those, there we have a blink. So our character can blink, and talk. It's very simple. It's essentially 4 frames. So blink, eyes open, talk, mouth closed. So mouth open, mouth closed, eyes open, eyes closed. Just making those outlines the same color as the outlines instead of black. And then there's our blink. The black is, well, the outline color, the dark red, is less stark against the character, against the character's body as the black. So, don't always need to use black for the outlines. Save, and there is our finished character. Mean beans.